What's up, Canes fans? Welcome into another edition of the CanesInSight podcast. I am your host, Peter Ariz, alongside D-Money. As always, have a special show coming up for you today. Got quarterback commit Judd Anderson. Had a really good conversation with him. Great, looking prospect in terms of his size and stature at the quarterback position, and got to know him a little bit. So as always, when this episode drops, subscribe to the channel on YouTube. You can find us on all social media channels, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And we have a ton of content going out there every single day, as well as the website. D-Money, welcome. We got a commitment today. Jaden Davis, transfer from Oklahoma. I know the fans have been waiting for the portal to pop, and hasn't been a ton of action just yet in terms of commitments, right? But this was an important one that I know they're excited about.
Yeah, the coaches are excited, and they should be. And it's funny, I heard mixed reaction for this recruit commitment. Just on the CanesInSight message boards, people are like, oh, this is not an impact player. We shouldn't have taken a veteran like this. Listen, we need corners. I'll break it down that simple. We need corners. This was a no-brainer take. It's not even worth discussing, but we'll discuss it anyways. Here's the situation. In 2019, Miami signed to Corey Couch, Christian Williams. Christian Williams not here. Corey Couch is one of our only reliable players. If you call him that, because he's been up and down. 2020, you get Marcus Clark, Isaiah Dunson. They're not here. 21, Malik Curtis, still working his way in the corner position, played a little bit last year and got cooked. 2022, Kamari Rogers, gone. Jaden Harris looks like a good player. They like his size, his speed, his toughness, energy, all that. But his weakness is coverage. You saw when he played last year and got cooked. He will most likely be a safety long-term, so take him out of the corner group. Chris Graves, who has not shown the flashes, but it's not shown that he can be relied upon, that coaches are going to go to sleep at night knowing their job is in his hands in terms of doing what he needs to do. So you, in 4 years, have one semi-reliable corner on the roster right now from the recruiting class. So I don't know what people think the state of the program is, that you could just turn down a veteran like Jaden Davis, who played 1,500 snaps at Oklahoma. It's not realistic.
Started 20-plus games. Obviously the Big 12 is not known for defense, but they are known for producing wide receivers, right? So he's had some tough matchups there in the Big 12. And I think you said it in the bank last week, right? How the staff was really prioritizing character as well. And I know that's not what everyone wants to hear. They want to hear about the sort of football player he is, but it all ties in. And this is a high character guy, going to be in his 5th year now in college, right? So tons of experience, son of a longtime high school coach down here in South Florida, right? So everything that you're looking for in terms of the type of player that you want to build this culture around, and albeit it'll be a 1-year thing with him, right? But he's someone who is going to leave the locker room and the program in a better place in terms of what he's going to bring with the work ethic. And you mentioned a guy like a Chris Graves, who has shown tons of ability, right? But has to clean some things up in terms of his consistency. A guy like Jaden Davis could come in and really help someone like him, right? Yeah. And listen, I expect him to be heavily in the mix for that starting position opposite of Devontae Brown. And he has played a lot of nickel in his career as well. But again, emphasis on the experience here, valuable experience, right? When you just went down the list of guys that you're hypothetically going to be relying on, not a ton of snaps there, right? So I think it's a very, very high quality pickup, high quality depth. And to me, it's going to be more than depth. I think he's going to be a contributor on the team this year.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about the player and the person because I know you know him pretty well going back to high school. I don't think people realize just how dire the situation is at cornerback. We just went through old recruiting classes. You've lost Tyreek Stevenson now, second round to the Bears. You've lost DJ Ivey, seventh round to the Bengals, which we'll talk about. So 2 NFL corners out the door from a team that didn't play that great last year in the back end. In the recruiting class, no Cormani McClain, no Antoine Jackson. So you're really only bringing in 2 guys, Damari Brown and Robert Stafford, neither of whom are spring enrollees. So you just need somebody who can play. And people will say, well, he's the same thing as a Porter. He's the same thing as a Couch. Not that big, not overly athletic, just kind of solid, average kind of P5 guy. Look, that may be the case. I'm not disputing that. This guy's not a first-round pick coming in here or a second-round pick like when we got Tyreek. But that doesn't mean he's not going to help us because we were an injury away or a suspension away or whatever from extremely dire circumstances. And now you have a guy that can play, that's played in bowl games, that's played in big games, started big games, and knows how to play. So this has raised your floor. Maybe it's not changing your ceiling as with an impact guy, but it's raised your floor. Miami's still going to pursue cornerbacks. They just offered a kid out of Louisiana Lafayette today. So they're working to add more corners, hopefully an impact guy. But this was an absolutely necessary take given what was in the room due to years of just horrible cornerback recruiting, really from Manny Diaz's staff, because that's who was ultimately making those calls. You know, and even go back to 2018, by the way, sorry to stop. Even you go back to 2018, that was the year you had Patrick Surtain, who you missed, who's in the NFL, probably the best corner in the league.
All pro, yeah.
Tyson Campbell, who is a very, very good corner for the Jacksonville Jaguars, second-round pick. Missed him. You missed – who else they missed in that year? It was Samuel, excellent corner for the Chargers, didn't offer him.
Who would have been very receptive to Miami if they would have been on it.
Right. Even a guy like Josh Jobe, who won a world championship or was NFC championship for the Eagles, started for Alabama. Obviously, they played in huge games. Even a guy like Rashad Wildgoose, Duaso's guy, who went to Wisconsin and ultimately got drafted. A lot of very, very good players. I'm missing guys from that class that went on to very big things. Really, all Miami got out of that class at corner was DJ Ivey, who got drafted. But Al Blades didn't really live up to what you hoped he would. And ironically, bringing it all back, Jaden Davis, who we're talking about today, started over Al Blades in high school.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this has been a long period of poor cornerback recruiting, and you're trying to piece it back together with guys like Devontae Brown, Daryl Porter, Davis, who, even though they've been up and down, have good film against good teams. They're grown-ups. They know how to play. South Florida guys who've had success elsewhere and against legitimate competition, and that you can at least set a floor where Case will be average at corner. Maybe if a guy like Damari Brown hits the freshman or Robert Stafford, or if another one of these portal guys lands in Miami's lap, you can raise the ceiling a little bit, but you'll at least be average. Whereas before Jaden Davis and a couple of these other guys came in, it was looking potentially catastrophic at the corner position. But Pete, I want to ask you, you know Jaden Davis, you interviewed him in high school, talked to him in high school. I know you worked with him in your role at FRM. What can you tell me about both the person and then the feedback you got as far as the player?
Well, very, very, very football-oriented kid. Like I said, son of a coach. I want to say his dad was John Ford's coach at Dillard. I may need to, do my fact-checking there. But I want to say he was the coach at Dillard when Ford was there, and Jordan Wright and some other guys who played. But again, very football-oriented kid. And, you hear a lot of stuff about the cult. Again, I keep harping on it, but the culture that you're trying to build at Miami, and a lot of the guys that are going out of the building, you see pretty early the emphasis Miami made on getting Davis. He was on campus last week, from what I understand. You have your sources, obviously, but the people that I talk to that have been, dealing with Jaden. Miami was pretty aggressive early, and when he put his name in the portal, right? And again, this is a guy who had other opportunities at other Power 5 programs where he probably would have been more guaranteed to be a starter at another place, right? And again, I think he's going to be prominently in the mix at Miami. But I think it says a lot about him that he decided to come here, come home. And, I got to refresh my memory again on this, but I don't think he was a big priority for Miami when he was a high school recruit either, right? So there was some interest there. I remember him coming to a camp, but he wasn't a huge corner. Oklahoma was actually the first to offer Trajan Bandy at the time, or Trajan was committed to Oklahoma first. So Oklahoma was trying to get in the mix with some of the guys that maybe Miami, Florida State didn't necessarily want at the time. So I think it says a lot that he's a mature enough kid, man now almost, because he's, going into year 5, that he didn't hold that stuff kind of against Miami. Obviously different staff and all that, but I'm excited about the pickup.
Yeah, real quick, I'm going to go through his high school numbers. He's grown since then, but it's funny. Look at his high school numbers, almost identical testing to Daryl Porter. 5'10", 166. He's grown. He's gotten heavier since then, but ran 4.58, 4.38 shuttle, 32 vert, 89.88 spark, which is okay. 4-star prospect. Really, he is almost a carbon copy when you look at those numbers of Daryl Porter Jr., who Miami already has. So think of that kind of athlete. I would say, Davis.
But Porter had played what, one season in West Virginia before coming over to Miami. So a lot more football under Jaden Davis's belt.
Right. Good feet, son of a coach, like you said, smooth corner, can tackle. Just not going to give you the great corner attributes as far as the length and the speed the true impact guys have. But there's someone who knows how to play, knows how to tackle, and again, raises your. And Miami is not done in the portal. I'm going to have a loaded bank coming up later this week on the podcast, which I promise you will go through all the different options. Now that dust has settled a little bit, I'll get my updates from my people, and I'll come with a loaded bank. But this one, I know Miami wanted him badly because of the experience, because of the IQ, the savvy, and just the energy that he brings to the room. They think that room needs a little bit of juice, and they think Davis can bring some of that energy to the room along with consistent play at the position. But Miami cornerbacks have making some headlines lately.
Yeah, this weekend probably made the decision a little easier for Jaden Davis. Obviously different body types than the two guys that got drafted there. But, listen, Stevenson obviously was not a surprise. And I don't think it was a surprise where he got drafted either. I think I've said, I thought he'd be a top 50 pick. He went 56. So right outside of that range, but pretty much where we thought he'd go. And then with DJ, man, I mean, we've been probably, the only people saying it consistently publicly, but that's why every time we would talk about it, right, I would refer back to the NFL scouts and again, what they have always said about him, right, because he's a guy who's played a lot of football, so his name's been out there, is, man, he just looks the part, and he has really good moments on film. As we saw, we knew, you and I knew this, he's not slow either, right? He can run. That, like we saw, he busted a mid 4.4 at pro day, right? And was always going to interview well. So that part of the process was going to pass with flying colors, which he did, from everything that I heard. And, getting a really good opportunity with the Bengals here. So, you tweeted it the other day that you haven't been happier for a Kane. That it's I think the sentiment probably was shared by a lot of Canes fans, because this is a guy who, you said, never went back at the fans who were as hard on him as anybody as I've seen the last, 10, 15 years, being around the social media era, right? And, just did everything he was supposed to do off the field. Never, was always the model guy in the locker room. And Miami needs, more of those guys in the locker room moving forward. Obviously now you want the guys to be able to perform because he, did have his moments, and he would tell you that, right? That there were moments that he would like to have back. But as far as a prospect, I mean, let's see now what happens if he gets this, at this next level and is able to show his physicality and, get coached up on, not that the coaching at Miami was bad, but when they're, the coaching up there is a different level. And they're really, really going to try to maximize his abilities. So.
Yeah, like you said, you were all over it. The Jonathan Ford comparison, another 7th rounder who stuck around. He was on the sideline of all those Packers games.
He was on John Big Ford was on the 53-man roster this last year, getting his full salary. So, and a lot of people really didn't think that was just based off saying, man, this guy doesn't have that many sacks, or same thing with DJ Ivy. We see him getting beat. Or he doesn't come down with the interceptions as much as we'd like him. Doesn't get his head turned around right. How many times did we hear that? NFL coaches and NFL executives look at him and say, "Man, we can get something out of him. We can coach him up." And that's always a little bit of the ego, right, of the NFL, right? They're always, the guys up there are always going to think they can get more out of them than the college level, which unfortunately at Miami we've seen too many times the last 15 years. We could do 3 podcasts on the guys who have, not lived up to their ability at Miami and go on and do great things to the next level. But that's why you look at someone like DJ and you see him get the opportunity that he had. And even listen, if you ask Canes fans where they thought Tyreek Stevenson should get drafted, most of them probably wouldn't say 2nd round either, right? Just based off saying, well, what happened in the Middle Tennessee State game? What happened here, right? So that's just goes to show you the importance of this draft process. A guy like, Tyreek had the Senior Bowl, his pro day, the combine, and a lot of stuff goes on there where these people in the league really dig into, okay, why didn't this player, succeed to the highest of his abilities in this situation, really get to the bottom of things. So,
yeah. And, going back to our prior conversation, I don't think people realize how few good corners there are in the country. Ivy, they're ready to throw out, cut him, and the guy's getting drafted. Jaden Davis, who we all agree has some limitations, he's a 4-star transfer, 4.7. There just aren't that many guys out there.
Well, and this isn't the old days where you say, well, I have 2 good corners and we're ready to go. Obviously, injuries are going to happen, but you need 3-4 defensive, 3-4 corners on the field at a time these days. People are questioning the Dolphins pick of Cam Smith, saying, oh, well, they already have, X and why do they need another guy, right? Well, you need as many corners as you can get when you see these offenses right now. You see what they're going to have to go up against in their own division, right? So the same can be said about what we're talking about here.
No. And look, if Miami's going to be great, they do need to sign the Patrick Surtains, the Tyson Campbells, the legitimate superstar corners that Miami has not been signing since forever. Going back as far as I can remember, really, they have not been signing the superstar corners. So that is a problem with Miami's program that they need to fix. And it's not going to get fixed with what we're talking about here. But you take quality, playable corners when you can get them, and they have good character, and you don't ask twice. But happy for DJ, happy for Tyreek.
And then Will Mallory also going to the Colts, fastest tight end in the draft, obviously leaves, some things to be desired in the blocking game. But again, that's the beauty of the NFL level. They're not going to ask him to get down and dirty in the trenches too much, right? So he'll play a certain role, and hopefully, again, with Will, as I've said time and time again, he would have probably been a higher pick if his body wasn't a concern in terms of the injuries, right? He's had the knee, he's had the shoulder. So I think we were saying 5th to 7th round pick pretty consistently was where he would go. But the injuries were a concern for teams. Again, he was the fastest tight end in the draft. He went 6 rounds. So you can only imagine what he would have probably had the potential to go if nothing was an issue there. But again, that's the beauty of the league. He'll have an opportunity now to go out there and if he does what he's supposed to do, get to his second contract, and that's where he can really make it for himself. But if he stays healthy, he's got a good opportunity.
Yeah, Mallory, another guy like Ivy, beloved by the coaches and teammates. So happy for him. He's been working hard. If Miami's going to get to the next level, not only do they need to sign some more of these first rounders, Zay Flowers or Kalaya Cansey, that would have helped. But they also need to turn guys like Mallory and Ivy from 5th and 7th round picks into day 2, day 1 picks, because they have it in their bodies to be that. I saw flashes on Green Tree where they looked like that player that was going to go first, second, third round. Clearly, the NFL saw that talent because they drafted them without having the production of some other players. So Miami needs to not only add more premium elite guys, which Mario's working really hard on. Easy to picture Francis Mauigoa on that stage. But they also need to make sure the guys that are getting drafted in the 5th and 7th round with physical tools are going higher and performing better while they're here. And I think Mallory and Ivy are 2 perfect examples of guys that in the future, you need to get more out of those guys. And that's how you get more of these day 2, day 1 picks. It's not just signing more guys, it's getting it out of guys like that who've shown flashes and who have the physical tools that the NFL teams want.
Definitely, because those guys aren't getting drafted off of their film. They're getting drafted. Yeah, there's stuff in the film that shows, but they're getting drafted on their traits.
Yes. Speaking of traits, I know you talked to a 6'6", almost 6'7" quarterback with some basketball athleticism, big arm, smooth mover, Judd Anderson. So really looking forward to that interview. It seems like a great kid. And
listen, he's in dog country, and he's turning people into Canes fans out there. So he's he's in the trenches up there. And like I said, obviously Georgia has a great thing going on right now, but looks like people in his community are all the way behind him in his choice to go to Miami. So
let's see what he's got to say. Like and subscribe.
Judd Anderson next on the CanesInSight podcast. All right, want to welcome in now Judd Anderson, 2024 quarterback commit for the Miami Hurricanes recruiting class, to the CanesInSight podcast. Judd, I know it's been a crazy last few weeks for you. Life has probably changed a little bit since committing to the Canes.
Yes,
so what's it been like for you?
Well, one thing, I mean, you kind of walk around school and stuff, people throwing up the U. It's different. It's definitely like it's almost surreal. Like you don't really expect it, and then some random kids walking up behind you throwing up the U, and they're like, "Oh man, congrats!" And I'm like, yeah. But I mean, also, I'm kind of glad the recruiting process is over for me. I'm just getting things done, and now I feel like I can focus on Miami and focus on my school year and just everything I got to do to excel and just be a better quarterback for my high school team.
Man, you must be a popular guy if you're in dog country and you got the people around you in school throwing up the U. You must be a well-liked guy if you got people, out of there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's kind of just playful stuff, and but everybody kind of says they don't love the orange and green, and it looks too much like Florida or this or that. And I'm like, nah, man. I mean, it's orange and green all the way. That's how we do it down there.
Your follower count must be going crazy since you committed too, right? The Canes fan base is pretty nuts on there, huh?
Yeah, it's blowing up right now, and it just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling, and I'm like, oh crap, another one. Like in my Twitter notifications every time, it's
right.
Weird.
So what's your schedule like now in terms? Obviously, school's not over with. You aren't in summer yet, and now you have practice starting. workouts, and you as a quarterback, right, probably getting in some extra work outside of what you have to do with your team. So just break down what your schedule's like right now.
So right now we're in spring ball. So we go until May 5th. So it's kind of like today was our last practice before we prepare for game week, basically. And so we've just been kind of doing that, and that's been the main thing I've been occupied with. But I was actually in Mobile last week training with Quarterback Country, and I've been working with those guys for a while now. I've been training with Denny Thompson out of Jacksonville, and so I get a lot of work in just like on my weekends and stuff, on my free weekends whenever I get to. And I do a lot of speed training up in near Atlanta, and just doing a lot of different things on the weekends and times that I'm free, and I just get the opportunity to.
I know former Canes quarterback Malik Rozier is part of Quarterback Country.
Mm-hmm.
Him being a Mobile guy. You hit the barbecue spot across the street, Dreamland?
Dreamland? No, I haven't.
You gotta go there, man.
I've
I
heard
go
it's
there every
good.
year for the Senior Bowl, and I know it's right across the street from the
Yeah.
facility. We saw it over there this
Mm-hmm.
year, so gotta check it out.
Yeah, I definitely
Um,
will.
so in terms of your background as a quarterback, right? Is this, how long have you been playing the position? You being a bigger guy, right? Play other sports. Sometimes you get thrown into being the bigger guy. Growing up, you may get thrown into playing, a line spot, a tight end position,
Mm-hmm.
just because you're naturally a bigger kid, right?
Yeah.
In terms of working with these coaches, these quarterback coaches and all that, is this a new thing for you? Is that something that, you've just started recently doing? Just take us back in terms of your growth as a quarterback and
Yeah.
kind of your development up to this point.
For sure. I mean, like in middle school, I bounced around positions. I played quarterback. I played safety. I played receiver. I mean, it's kind of was like the all around athlete type deal. I mean, it did a lot of different things. But then high school hit, and they were like, okay, like let's focus on quarterback. Let's lock into that, and you're going to be the guy for us. And let's just completely go into that. And I mean, I was in a wing T for first 2 years of high school, so. And I kind of really didn't understand much, so it was kind of like, oh, you know. And then I grew and I learned and developed. And when I transferred to Jones County, it was my first year in a spread. And now I'm looking on to my second year in a spread offense and getting where I want to be.
And I mean, obviously the verbiage is different, the terminology,
Mm-hmm.
but just the skill set you can use, right?
Yeah.
Because in the wing T, you're handing the ball off and you're running. But how do you think your skill set is kind of tailor made for the spread you're in now, and just how you see football in general, the evolution of it and the
Mm-hmm.
evolution of these offenses and the type of offense you're going to be stepping into at Miami with Coach Dawson?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, Dawson runs an air raid, so I mean, I'm really looking forward to that. I mean, he works.
Yeah, as a quarterback, your eyes got to light
Yeah,
up.
yeah. I mean, he works with his quarterbacks. He works with his main guys, and he builds his offense around those guys. He builds his offense around the guy. Like he built his offense around Tyler right now, and eventually it'll be he's looking to develop Jakari and develop Emery and develop Tyler.
Oh, and he had Clayton Tune last year.
Yeah, and I mean
Houston.
he's done a great job with those kind of guys, and just I mean, like you look at Clayton, and I mean that dude's gonna be. I mean, he's a stud.
Similar body type to you as well. 6'5", bigger quarterback, can move a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And I think like I was kind of looking into that stuff, and I was like, this is sweet. Like, I mean, he's one of the best offensive coordinators in football right now. I mean, he knows what he's doing. So I think it'd definitely be a fit for I mean, it's obviously a fit for me. So it just makes sense.
Well, what does Coach Dawson and I guess the other Miami offensive coaches, Coach Cristobal, tell you? What have they told you about your game right now and what they like about what you bring to the table?
I mean, obviously the physical traits. You look at me. You look at the height. You look at the just being able to take a hit out of the backfield by those guys and being able to stay firm and strong and deliver shots. And I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, they want a big armed guy and they want somebody who's going to rip it around for them and extend the ball down the field through the passing game. And they that's what they want. And they want a guy who's going to stay in the pocket and go through progressions. And I think I fit that role pretty perfectly.
I'm sure they threw the name Justin Herbert around as well.
Yeah. Yeah, Cristobal did a bunch. He's like, man, you might be taller than Justin Herbert, and I was like, yeah.
What are you weighing right now?
I'm weighing around 220.
Okay.
So
yeah,
I'm kind of fluctuating. I'm in between like 220, 225. So.
And you have basketball too, which I'm sure when you're in basketball season as well, you drop a little bit.
Yeah.
So, and which obviously that leads me into my next question. You're a basketball guy. Mm-hmm. For those who haven't seen your clips, because there's limited stuff out there, but how would you describe your game on the basketball court?
I mean, I play center, so it's kind of like
but what is that? Listen, centers these days, they can shoot
a
little bit.
I'm not no stretch five. I get rebounds and
at least you're honest about it.
Yeah, I make big plays, just blocking shots. And I mean, I played. We had a bunch of scorers around me this year, so it was kind of like inside out game. So we played a lot of inside out. I got a lot of assists. I mean, I passed the ball around a lot. I mean, I was delivering it to shooters, trying to give us the best opportunities. And I mean, we had a great point guard this year who distributed the ball, and we had guys around me, and that's why we went to the Final Four, is because we had a great team with just a lot of key pieces around us just to be able to get there.
Well, listen, the quarterback is showing because you're really mm-hmm. highlighting your teammates and you're letting the people know that it wasn't all you. But it's interesting because people think quarterback more of a finesse position normally. Yeah. Not always. You see what Jalen Hurts, how he plays the game, right? He's running people over left and right. Yeah. But you think about a quarterback, you may think 3-point shooter, ball handler, but mm-hmm. it's nice to know you're not afraid to get dirty in there.
Yeah, I've always grew up. I mean, I've always been tall, so I always grew up playing center and playing power forward, and I knew that was my game. My dad played in the post, and so I kind of just grew up with it and grew up learning post moves and different things just to make my game better.
Listen, in 10, 15 years, you're gonna be glad you learned the post moves, because when you're playing pickup ball, I'm telling you, that's where you're gonna revert back to.
The church league, man. Yeah, for sure.
Now, any other sports? Did you play any other sports growing up, or was it really just basketball and football?
I ran a little bit of track in middle school. Not crazy, but I kind of shied away from it. And then I mean, I just played basketball and football, really. So.
Got it. What was your impression of Miami campus when you were down there recently, and who came down there with you?
So my whole family came, my sister, my dad, my mom, and one of my teammates came with me. And so, I mean, I kind of had it in the back of my head. I was gonna make a move to I'm thinking about committing. And me and my parents sat down and talked about it, because we'd been on the phone with Dawson, we'd been on the phone with Cristobal, we'd been on the phone with a bunch of that staff. And so I got down there and I fell in love with the place. I mean, it is sweet. It is awesome. Just the entire vibe around just the school and the city and just everything about it is what I fell in love with. And the players there are just amazing people, and the coaches there are amazing people in person. Just getting to meet those guys in person, that's all I needed to see to commit.
Yeah, man, Coral Gables is tough to beat. That's for sure.
Yes, sir.
Now, you obviously being the quarterback for this class, just talk about, which I'm sure was part of the other reason you wanted to kind of get the process over with when you did, is kind of cementing yourself as a leader moving forward for the class. You know, I think people see how active you are on social media, showing your support when guys are committing, and I'm sure you're doing some stuff behind the scenes as well. So just talk about that role that you're trying to kind of take on, and how's it going so far? Are you working on anything right now that the Canes fans should be excited about?
I'm working on a couple things. I've got a couple things up my sleeve, trying to get some playmakers for us to get here, and just kind of texting some guys. And I'll see like somebody like something I posted about Miami, and I'll DM them, and I'll be like, "Hey man, like, what you got going on?" You know.
Right.
And so yeah, I mean, it was very special for me to be like the first offensive skill position. Like I feel like that was a huge thing for me to lead this class. Was okay, like we had Abram, we've got the kicker, we've got the boot, you know, and then I'd come in and our class for the next 3 weeks blows up. We get Chance, we get Juan, we get Chris, we get Isaiah Thomas, and I mean we just blew
and
up.
It looks like, listen, it's early part of summer now, camp season coming up, probably going to be a lot more rolling in.
Yeah, for sure. I think once those guys take their officials, I think it's going to be like it's where I want to be, and so I think we'll get a lot of studs around us, and I think I'll play a big part of that. Chance will play a big part of that. All those guys, I mean, they recruit their butt off because I mean that's our job now. I mean, we're trying to get the best players here. So
right. A couple more questions before I let you go. Just talk about, and look, at the end of the day, the star ratings really don't matter, right? But do you have a chip on your shoulder knowing that you're a 3-star guy right now, whether that's because people haven't had a chance to see you play, or like you said before, you weren't necessarily in an offense that was going to be able to showcase your ability. But is that something you think about at all? Is that motivation?
I think it's more of just believing in myself and knowing that I can do anything I put my mind to. It just takes work, and that's I don't look at it as so much of, oh, I've got to prove this guy something, because there's nothing I have to prove. I mean, it's
you have the offer, or you already have the D1
yeah.
offer.
I mean, I have the commitment, and I believe that, like, if I do everything for my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, that's all that matters, and that's important to me. And if I just put my best out there and I work as hard as I possibly can, that's the goal, you know.
Last thing here, anything you want to say to the Canes fans out there? I know you've done, like I said, you've done a bunch of these interviews, so you've had a chance to kind of get to know the fans a little bit.
Yeah.
But what's your message to them?
Yeah, I'm grateful for the Canes fan base. I'm grateful for everybody in it. I mean, just the love and support I get constantly on Twitter. I mean, they even gave me a nickname, so that felt pretty good. And just everything that's going on right now, I feel like there's a whole lot of support around the fan base, around the school, everything, and I think it's just really, really special. And I mean, Miami is a special place to be right now. I mean, we're going to be on the rise in the next coming years. We've got the young guys. We've got an insane offensive line, insane receivers, insane DBs. I mean, just guys who are ready to make plays. So Miami's on the rise.
Listen, man, I'm going to keep pushing this basketball thing. You see the basketball teams doing, they may need an interior shot blocker, a rim defender. We may have to talk to Coach L and get him some film. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. You never know.
I don't know. We don't want you to get hurt either. So that's the issue. But that might be fun.
Yeah.
But Judd Anderson, appreciate you joining us and coming on today.
Yes, sir. Thank you.